This is the ATI.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, ATI Podcast. We're here with Mr. Ridge Jackson and Brandon Stuart as our guests, as well as Josh Welch and myself, as usual, Barrett. We, well, first and foremost, I know that as soon as the news came down on the reversal of the decision with regards to Roe v. Wade, Brandon called me shortly thereafter. We talked on the phone a little bit, and, you know, immediately there was kind of a defeat in both of our voices and a huge concern with, you know, what's going on currently, and just the fact that, you know, this is kind of the writing on the wall. They had the opinion piece that got leaked into the media several weeks back. Coincidentally, I kind of alluded to this being a problem on the last podcast in the open when we were talking about,
good prediction,
you know, the Supreme Court and some of the decisions that they were making infringing on people's civil liberties, and it didn't stop there. And there's concerns of things going forward. So, but, you know, within 12 hours after we recorded that podcast, they turned this over on the 24th, last Friday, as we're recording this now. And, you know, us all being husbands, either having daughters or, you know, having close relatives or nieces or whatever the case is, you know, we kind of took this one a little bit more personal, I think, than a lot of the other stuff that we see on a daily basis. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
Yeah, exactly.
And, of course, we're also obviously all men, so I want to frame this conversation by, you know, we're talking about women's reproductive rights here today, and this is our support. This is what we knew we could do. This is, you know, this is the show. This is our platform. This is what we use to, you know, that's the great thing about, you know, the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment. You know, this is us exercising our free speech in support of women in general, and obviously in opposition to what we think is, quite frankly, evil.
Yep.
To use a term
that's the best way to describe it. Yeah. I mean, what's going on is plain evil.
Yeah, absolutely. So the decision, of course, was a 6-3 decision in the Supreme Court. And of course, it was to the same lines that I talked about on the previous episode. It was all the conservative judges getting together, making a decision, and striking down Roe v. Wade, overturning it.
Doing the thing that they shouldn't be doing.
Absolutely.
Exactly right. Revisiting things that they've always
especially when every single one of these motherfuckers in their, you know, their, whatever you call it, their hearings, confirmation hearings, every single one of these people that voted for this decision all said that this is precedent of the land, law of the land is precedent. It's been here since the 70s. It will remain in law. You know, they all lied, you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, can we not hold, I mean, is that not perjury? Can we not hold people accountable for that? I mean, that's
I'm sure there's talks of it, Josh. And the one thing that all of us four know for sure is they have different privileges than we all do.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So things will be said, then they'll forget about it the next day because there'll be another school shooting because nobody fucking gives a fuck about taking care of those. And then everybody will forget about it because they'll be on Instagram or fucking Facebook. And they're covered. They're covered.
Right.
Unless we're talking about lock Hillary up, because for God's sakes, I agree, lock that bitch up. But Jesus Christ, is that the fucking thing?
Right. We're still going on about that, yeah.
Well, you know, the thing that I have to put in perspective, obviously, you know, again, we talked on the last episode, we talked about the conceal and carry in support of the carriers, if you will, in that situation that was passed, again, like 12 hours before this. So now they make a decision with such ill timing, quite frankly, considering the Uvalde, Texas thing just happened. They make a decision that people can carry guns into private places, regardless of what state laws are, or public places. So how does that make any sense? Now guns and gun carriers have more rights than women do with their health choices.
I mean, it's
well, and
unbelievable.
if you look back at the 90s too, this same bullshit happened, where there was higher crime in New York, and they started loosening certain things and fucking causing more crime. So it's like, I'm down for the goddamn, basketball jackets and shit like that. A bunch of kids run around with yin yang signs on themselves and fucking alien faces like the 90s. But why the fuck are we bringing back the 90s crime and bullshit like that? It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's trying to rewind.
Well, it's like why are we taking 20 steps forward and then taking 40 steps backwards? You know what I mean? Like, why undo everything? You know what I mean? It's just like I feel like we're like systematically just undoing everything that we've made progress on in the last 20 years. You know what I mean? Just undoing everything, just stepping back in time. It's unbelievable.
This whole thing's a human rights issue. It's not, it goes beyond our government. Our government should not be able to make decisions about what we inalienably have rights to ourselves. So it really doesn't make any sense. But, of course we have to look at historically. So I thought it was kind of fascinating. I stumbled upon an NPR piece that talked about whenever Roe v. Wade was decided on. Well, when was that? Well, that was January 22nd of 1973. Well, what's fascinating about that time is Nixon was president. So he was a conservative and the court was mostly conservative. So why would a conservative president over a conservative judicial system essentially vote in favor of Roe v. Wade? They landed on the side of women's health related things was their business. They had a right to privacy.
Their civil liberty.
It was a part of their civil liberty.
Right.
I would imagine he's a little bit worried about the investigation that was probing up his own ass.
Watergate, the court. That's true.
And he probably wasn't focused on that.
Yeah.
But so the Supreme Court decision at that time was 7-2 in favor.
And you said it was a dominantly conservative court, right?
The dominantly conservative court, yeah. So what that right there tells you the political shift in this country. People need to understand and know that these labels that we're painting on Republicans and even Democrats, they're not the same party that they were exactly 50 years ago, almost to the date. Now.
Right.
So it's very important to understand how polarized the climate has become, the political climate that is, and that people are seeking political agendas. So seeking political agendas brings us to another fascinating point. You guys have already brought it up. Whenever they were questioned in their hearings, they being the justices of the Supreme Court, I think I counted at least 4 that I could find. No, I'll make that 5, video evidence or audio evidence of the 6 that voted, whom said that, again, what Josh said, that Roe v. Wade was precedent. So whenever you're saying that in a court hearing, essentially that is a benchmark on a decision that's already been made, and they're not going to revisit it because it's already established.
It's already a law.
That's what precedent is in a legal sense. Right? We got that right, Brandon?
Yeah, no, you definitely do. I don't know.
Was I saying president? I think I meant to say precedent.
No worries. No, yeah, legally, whenever you set that precedent, most of the time and this is speaking to a colonel that's been a attorney he was 26 years in, retired, and then did another 20. So
46
this
years.
this motherfucker's been doing it forever, and I've been talking to him quite a bit. He said that the reason why they're revisiting this is because of comments made in the past because of that Texas fucking law. Bringing this, people habitually bringing this fucking subject up because they have nothing better to do than think about other people's dead babies. Meanwhile, they're beating their wives and fucking everything else. Anyways, so in that precedent, they set it and they hold on to it for the longest time possible. It really is not touched normally.
Right.
But for some reason, because of that Texas law, then Clarence Thomas, the fucking bane of our existence, and his
the most conservative judge,
and his fucking evil planet of a wife, fucking consumes all of the media, and they push for this to fucking happen. And they're saying, it's no big deal. It's not a political thing, even though it's very against what the left wants on several of these topics. So it's very unusual.
Right. Yeah, so what I found fascinating too, okay, so like obviously I took to some social media platforms myself and I immediately said, these guys are perjurers simply by their decision that they released because it was, counterproductive to what was discussed and covered in the hearings.
Right.
So when it comes to the hearings in and of themselves, I went back and revisited some of that footage as I mentioned earlier. So we've got Alito, we've got Gorsuch, we've got Amy Coney Barrett, we got Kavanaugh, and even Clarence Thomas. So there's 5 of your 6 that in their hearings have
Amy Coney Barrett. Jesus.
Yeah, they have all said that this was precedent, but you have to listen to the wording. So they're never giving you a yes or a no. It's a technicality.
It's a walk around.
Yeah, they said that it was based off of a technicality.
Yeah, so I'm hating to burst everybody's bubble here right now, but we're not going to get to impeach these judges. It's not going to happen based on this.
It's just wishful thinking.
We just got to be realistic about that. But that got me to
things
thinking.
are wishful thinking too, Josh.
That got me to thinking.
A lot of other fucking things.
When have we impeached a judge? And it's only been one time ever, and that was in 1804. It was Samuel Chase, who was a founding father. He was actually a Federalist judge that was appointed by George Washington specifically. And so what led to his demise? Well, in 1804, he was actually impeached. So it was passed through the House, it was passed through the Senate with a 2/3 majority. Jefferson essentially had a hard-on for him immediately because Jefferson was a Democratic Republican and he was a Federalist. So they were opposing political parties. And it became extremely evident just in general that he being Samuel Chase, was executing a political agenda. So that we might have a basis for. That argument we might have a basis for.
For sure.
And at that time, they considered that to, quote unquote, set a precedent. That is kind of where you have gotten these hundreds of years of tradition of encouraging the court not to be political outside of the fact that they're not supposed to be.
I will say, too, Barrett, he was really into fucking dolls, too, so that could have been a part of it. They were just against him, like, we got to get this motherfucker out of here, man.
At that time, it was China dolls.
He's been fucking these porcelain faces and breaking every one of them. I got to pay for a new one next week.
All the medical procedures they were getting tired of. The U.S. taxpayers are paying for.
Don't look at me like that, Rich. Porcelain faces, China dolls.
I'm trying to figure out how they do it.
I just shove it straight in, man. It's like a goddamn hurricane. It's a battering ram.
Do they bore a hole first, or
we know if it was
if it means boring a hole with your dick, yeah.
It's just not atomically possible for Donald Trump to do it, so he certainly will never be accused for fucking a Russian doll with a microphone.
Ketchup popsicle?
Right?
No, just fucking his daughter. That's all.
Well, fantasizing about it at least.
Yeah,
she's the one who fucked him with this hearing.
That's a good point, big guy.
Yeah. So are we going to get these guys for being political? I'm going to go ahead and tell you that's unlikely as well. I hate to be the pessimist here, but we're talking 200 years since somebody's been impeached on the Supreme Court. Probably not happening. 220 years, in fact. So where do we go from here? What do we do? Before we get too far into that, I do want to kind of go around the table and just kind of, I know I kind of spoke to some of Brandon's reaction, at least us discussing immediately, but just kind of where your thoughts were at immediately when you heard the news, maybe where you were at, if that's worth reporting or whatever. So I'm going to start with Ridge.
We're talking about like when we first found out.
Yeah, about the decision.
Yeah, like I didn't expect it at all. We were actually on vacation. We got back to our place and just chilling. I hadn't been on my phone all day. First thing, as soon as I pop open my phone,
Updates.
Supreme Court has overturned Roe v. Wade, and I was just like, I wasn't surprised, really. I'm not surprised by anything anymore because it's just, it doesn't matter. Like,
I agree.
Whatever is on the far right is pretty much going to go anymore. And I don't know. I guess kind of just felt hopeless. Like, it's just...
You feel like you can't, like,
of like what my daughter's going to grow up in.
Right.
In this future, like...
Absolutely.
Like, I even had, like, my aunt was texting me, and I didn't even expect that. And she was like, did you see what happened? And I was like, yeah.
Right.
She's like, this is just disgusting.
Absolutely.
Like, she's like, it's not going to stop there. And I was like, it's not. They're going to come after a slew of things after this, which I mean...
Right. I mean, look what's going to happen.
Thomas is kind of tiptoed saying,
Yeah.
shit's gonna happen.
Right.
I don't know, not so happen, but attempt.
They are definitely going to revisit other things.
Right.
You know, one of which today was state led. So essentially, elections are led by the state to some degree, but they have to follow federal guidelines. Now they're going to revisit a conversation when the court's back in session about how they approach elections being ran, so federal elections. So, and this, of course, is being drummed back up because of the 2020 controversy, false lie, the big lie.
Yeah.
That whole thing where we have a hearing of a bunch of different people talking about how you got this
an
big
insurrectionist
gorilla fucking Cheeto monkey. And I can't even say he's that big. He's just a fucking fat ass, just like trying to grab over the seat and put other people in danger whenever he's the president of the United States.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Matt, it didn't care that people had weapons as they were marching on the Capitol. In fact, wanted them to.
Yeah,
So.
and even if the Secret Service, because the attorney I was talking about had stated that there were some reports that the Secret Service denied those things, even if that's not true, right? Because she heard it like in a conversation from a little way away or whatever. The very fact that this man is trying to get out to these individuals and rally behind them to be their leader, to lead them into the Capitol, and said it moments before, that should tell you he doesn't give a fuck about anybody else besides the people that are walking into that Capitol trying to kill.
Right. That's what I was going to say. People are talking about hanging Nancy Pelosi. And you
trust
know what I mean?
Trust me, I don't like any of those cocksuckers either, but I wouldn't wish death upon them.
Right.
I don't.
Yeah.
And if you need to watch a documentary that will actually open your fucking eyes a little bit, 4 hours at the Capitol from HBO, I watched the insurrection on the news.
Yeah, me too, as it happened.
This documentary and the things that happen and the things that they tried to impede Antifa from fucking doing or Black Lives Matter, I'm like, those black lives would have fucking died that day if they kept on doing the same shit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Sorry. Didn't mean to go off on a tangent, but
no, you're making valid points.
And I'm saying what everybody else is thinking. I just or as already said a million times before, but okay. This is fascism.
Right. It is. Yeah, for
straight
sure.
up.
Where it's heading.
I mean, we're talking about the egomania, the megalomania that Trump subscribes to. Everything that day, especially the more and more that you're hearing, which you think you can't hear anything that's unbelievable, but you do. Like, the woman's testimony, the aide in the cabinet here a few days ago, where she was talking about Trump throwing his plate and ketchup running down the White House wall and trying to take control of the vehicle.
I mean, honestly, we've already talked about this. I haven't talked about it with Rich, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, we're all in the group chat. I want to be a fly on the wall watching this fucking child, this massive fucking what's that duck from the cartoons where it's like baby Huey? He's like a baby duck? Huey just flying. His food's flying everywhere. Baby Huey's way more attractive. There's ketchup running down the walls, and a bunch of Secret Service like, really? This is
our commander.
This is what I signed up for. This is what I signed up for.
Right.
Yeah,
it's an embarrassment.
Has a tantrum. That's Trump.
Besides Ronald Reagan is goddamn jelly beans. I mean, that's pretty goddamn close.
It's jelly beans.
Fucking jelly beans.
Josh, where were you when the news hit you, and what was going on with you?
Yeah, I was actually at home, and I wasn't really paying attention much to the news or any of my notifications. I actually got a text from my wife, who actually seen it before me, and she's like, "Can you believe this?" And I was like, "Holy shit, dude, they did it." You know what I mean? I couldn't, like, part of me, like Rich said, I wasn't shocked, but part of me is like, really? Like, we're really we're gonna start doing this. This is, you know what I mean? And like, like he said, you almost get like the sense of feeling helpless. Like, what do we do? How do we stop it? Is it, you know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
So yeah, and just having conversations with my wife and her concerns, and like you said, like you guys have said, you got family members, you've got friends that are gonna, possibly be at risk over this, and
right.
It's not right, man. It's just not right. That's how I still feel about it. I'm still angry. I'm trying to stay angry about it.
Right.
In a sense, you know what I mean?
You have to stay angry to stay motivated.
Stay motivated about trying to help and fix the situation in any way I can, and just being an ally for women and just feeling awful. So you know what I mean? Just
today we're gonna not just sit here and rant and bitch and moan. Not to say that that's what Josh is doing right now. But we have some solution for folks too. We are going to get to that eventually. Yeah. If you'll bear with us, but we're just trying to humanize the situation, talk about where we're coming from as
don't pass me
men
up,
and supporter of women. So, that's why I want to get to what Brandon, he can elaborate on further, because I'm sure he had a moment before he called me. So, Brandon, what was going through you?
Josh, are you done? I don't want
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah.
So I was doing a volunteer opportunity with my office, for my legal office, and I heard off to my right,
I'll come back
vividly, my boss say they fucking did it, and this person doesn't cuss. And I asked her, and she told me, and immediately after I called Barrett. But I do want to start off with a good thing. So whenever I heard about this, I texted you guys and I texted my wife. And I've never seen my wife so pissed off about something before, especially politically. She tends to agree with a lot of stuff that I say and have her own opinions too, but she also isn't very outspoken about it. And I've never seen that side of her, but she was outspoken. From letting everybody know what she thinks, to buying T-shirts, to profess what she feels, to I'm going to be right there with you at a protest whenever you go. So the good thing is, it's not just my wife. This is going to fire up a lot of fucking people. And what they don't realize is, yes, they hide behind a fucking, and I'm going to say it, iron curtain, because that's how they're fucking acting like right now.
Absolutely.
Right.
They're acting like they're untouchable, like Putin is. And anybody can fucking, they're not that bad, they're not that bad. It's the same fucking thing going on right there. Mm-hmm. They want to skirt around the fucking truth and tell you one thing, and then they do it blindly. These people look at it, all these people that look like fucking Emperor Palpatine. I don't know why all Republicans look like that, but most of them do. I see them all fucking walking in the Dollar Tree all the fucking time.
Mitch McConnell's a Sith for sure.
Well, I mean, look at all
turtle, but
I mean,
Sith turtle.
Which I don't want to fight that fucking thing either. Just squash that motherfucker. But so there's some good things that come out of this. Now, the other good thing is I got a mother who has been predominantly conservative her entire married life. I'll say that, because my dad used to be conservative, blah, blah, blah. Took our jobs. Fuck that. Yeah. So even she is like, I sent a text to everybody, something to the effect of, I said they're probably going to go crazy. Or my mom said they're probably going to go crazy. And I said, good. And she's like, I agree. I was so blown away by that shit.
Right.
Yeah.
That somebody can fucking step away from how they've been programmed to believing in something that they know is wrong.
Right.
They know it.
So good on your mom. So
I'll say those two good things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The third thing I'll say is not so good. Clarence Thomas can eat my fucking chode. What a piece of shit to stand by the fucking law and sit there and talk about how you appreciate the law, you're a federalist, you want the structure of the Constitution to be followed. You fucking lied, you piece of shit. And your wife went to the fucking Capitol and pushed for these things to happen at the fucking Capitol.
Right.
And what do you have to fucking say for it?
Right.
Well, the voter rights thing that we alluded to earlier is actually a part of the narrative that she was trying to drive, as well as many other Trumpers, with the false election claims and trying to get things changed to where the federal government didn't have any say-so on how state-led elections were ran, essentially. But there needs to be a consistency. There needs to be a governing body just to hold everybody accountable. You know what I'm saying? At that upper level, considering, that's kind of what helped protected things from happening poorly. with the 2020 election specifically, because we had a system of checks and balances in place. But these people are literally talking about removing those things and abiding to lawful elections. That this is creating a precedent. Well, I'll use that word, precedent, that that they are essentially saying it's okay for you to do your own thing in this state. Like Mike Parsons today signed a law into bill that everybody has to have voter ID now. You have to have a photograph ID at the polls. You cannot take just simply your voter registration card anymore. Mind you, the one that the county clerk sends you, the one who's in charge of your local elections. But you have to take photo ID now.
Here's the thing that I want to know about illegal immigration. We could talk for hours, and I'll keep this short because I know we're on a time frame. And I apologize if I'm shouting in your guys' ears.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Hey, give all of the immigrants that have come here illegally, right? Ship them to a nice place and see what your fucking economy does. Because I assure you, it will fucking tank.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I assure you. You use these people and then you fucking banish them.
I don't know the exact demographic, but I know that like a large portion of the workforce on the west side of the United States is immigrants, and majority of that number are illegal immigrants.
Even on the East Coast in New York. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get us diverted, but just going on my rant. I'm pissed off.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. So, is there any stories since the ruling outside of just our immediate reactions that anybody wants to share? It's maybe an interaction you had with a coworker outside. I mean, Brandon gave us some here just now. He had some unexpected responses from his mother, and he talked about his wife coming out of her shell politically a little bit more and being a little bit more proactive and taking on an activist mindset in some respects. But has anybody else had any, for good, bad, or indifferent, surprising interactions post?
The only thing I've really heard, and it's not necessarily, this is not a good thing, but the effect of this being overturned is already starting to happen in Missouri, even for my
trigger law.
Yeah, my wife, she's a nurse, and she knows several nurses that work at several different hospitals around here, and they were sharing some conversations between nurses that were working at some of the bigger hospitals in St. Louis. Yeah, like there was this girl that apparently had a dead child inside her womb, and she's passed the mark, but now they're worried with all the laws, like they can't give her the medication to actually get her to abort this dead fetus inside of her, and now they're worried that she's going to go sepsis, get infection, and it could kill her. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's a logical thing. You know what I mean? And this is already happening. This just happened this week, and there's already women that are like, they could lose their lives over this. You know what I mean? It's just, that's the only thing that I've had outside of what's going on, what I've read on social media that I've heard of.
So there's some like human interest stories that I guess we're kind of removed from in some senses that I've heard as well. So even in the news, there's talk of, and clearly we should just define Missouri's current situation. So you can quote unquote have an abortion up to 8 weeks.
Right. There's a cutoff, right?
But there's a cutoff. Right. That being said, most women don't even know that they're pregnant until,
Yeah.
I mean, I think in our pregnancies, it was like 9 or 10 weeks, I want to say, at least on one or if not two occasions. Right. And I understand that's just a week or two difference, but again,
Trump's
you're talking
been in
about
his
missing
third
the part.
trimester for like 8 years.
That's the problem. He aborted and lived.
The other thing is, they'll all still get abortions. Like
and that's,
children and shit like that.
Yeah, we should not go without mentioning the fact that I know there was a congressional seat in Arizona that he kind of went on line and talked about, I'm so proud, toting the numbers in Arizona. Like, we've been consistently the most pro-life state. And some OnlyFans chick hopped on there and was like, your son came in me and made me get an abortion the next day.
Yeah.
Or Plan B the next day, quote tweeted him online.
Fucking
a lot
man.
of attention.
Yeah. Well, so that, a lot of activism over at OnlyFans.
Absolutely.
Go for it.
Yeah.
God bless them.
I agree.
Support them all. Free commercial.
I think you'd go broke, but no, you probably shouldn't do that. Ridge, you got any?
Before we got on the call, you mentioned something that you got in a text from an aunt that you didn't really expect.
Oh yeah, I mean, that just really surprised me. I mean, not really too much story. We were just bitching and moaning about it, and
sure,
just about how, I don't know,
But it's weird to see all the different people come out. And
you know what I mean? I didn't expect that from my aunt, who is, I wouldn't say like a pro-Trump, but I guess kind of on that like conservative side.
Right.
But product of her area and time and situation.
Yeah. But she's worried about like what they're gonna do now with like contraceptives and stuff like that, because like I've got like a young cousin who has to take like a hormone, like sort of. I don't want to,
know all of her business.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, it's to keep her
regulated
body regulated.
Yeah.
And if they do fuck up with some stuff with that, like she's screwed.
Yeah.
Like,
so also
it's going to get real weird, like, and bad.
With these trigger laws here in Missouri, too, we should mention that essentially from the moment that what happened was Missouri got together as a state and made a decision that, okay, if Roe v. Wade gets overturned, immediately we're going to enact this. And it was because Roe v. Wade actually protected abortions for people across the entire United States.
Right.
So whenever it got repealed, that's why you call it a trigger law, because if this happens, then that happens. If A happens, B happens. So what happened in Missouri is immediately you couldn't have an abortion past the 6-week point, and there are no exemptions for rape or incest.
Yep.
And it's still even tricky if it's medical related, but it's pretty much safe to say that it ain't going to happen. And that's pretty extreme. I believe was what the case was in Texas and has been for some amount of time as well, or at least they had a trigger law that went into effect as well.
Governor Abbott, I don't know if you guys heard in the news, or I'm sure you already have. So Governor Abbott, he set it in place. Hey, so any of these chicks that you see that are going to get an abortion in another state, you tattletale on them.
Yeah,
or if they try and get an abortion in state, tattle on them. And he was offering a reward. So this was leading me to what I was talking to all you guys about in the text chain. So I'm sitting there after. I mean, it's depressing this whole fucking week. I want to fucking punch holes through every goddamn thing I can. But I get a phone call at the legal office. It's a woman, and she's like, "Hey," and it's just, she doesn't even wait for me to like, "Hey, hello, Dias or whatever legal office." Not gonna say that.
We'll cut that from the record.
She goes, "Hey, just so you know, somebody on the spouses page here in Texas is saying that they're going to, hey, any women reach out to her, and she'll keep it secret. It'll be just between them. She'll drive them to New Mexico to get them an abortion." And I don't think it's right. I mean, Governor Abbott said that we're supposed to, and I'm like, okay, so it's not illegal. And she goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I go, "You can cross county line or state lines to get an abortion right now. Nothing as such has been passed." "Well, I just thought you should know." And I'm like, thank you very much. In my head, I'm thinking, because I have to still stay professional.
Right.
Thank you very much for being such a cunt that you have to fucking mention this to everybody here.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, you thought to tattle on somebody that is obviously
that you don't know.
If there's one person here that would love to see an abortion and dreams about it and fucking beats off to it at night, raise your fucking hand. If there's one person in here that goes, "Man, gay marriage gets me off," like, or that's the only reason, I'm just thinking about me. Like, besides that, I know. But seriously, like, these people think that, and I agree, the far left is bad, but these people think that the left is trying to introduce all this bullshit to them that is demonic. None of us have an interest.
Right.
I don't have a fucking interest.
Yeah, like, why? Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
it kind of goes into the satanic panic. It's a fake madness, or even reefer madness. The other things that we've talked about on the show before.
If anything, you should be scared of that.
There you go. And in case
fuck me, I don't even know what it
means. On the video right now,
it just showed up in my
woman
on
Brandon's wall that is being tortured, And,
no, I mean she's a succubus. She got wings and shit, but it just showed up on my wall randomly. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
It was a sign from Satan.
And then the creature from the thing.
Well, it must be because I'm a fucking liberal or a left-leaning fucking person. So I must be working for the devil. That and D&D.
Yep.
Yeah,
sure.
do it.
You fucking
Next step
pricks.
is you'll have that little puzzle box from Hellraiser.
Fucking sign me up.
So let's talk about what we can do. Let's talk about what we can do for women and how we can support them. So obviously, first and foremost, which we could have started this whole thing off with, we put up a little social media thing day of the ATI podcast that is did, and just started out the conversation by saying we're sorry.
Right. Apologize.
Because this is honestly, yes, I understand that Amy Coney Barrett is on the Supreme Court and she made a decision to strike this down. However, these decisions are being typically made by men and in large majority, as is the case here. 5 of the 6 jurors that voted for this were men. So, where do we go from here? Really, quite frankly, the answer is let's find out what we can do. So we already talked about how that it's very unlikely that we're going to impeach these judges. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but definitely not through the avenues at which you think it is. They're not going to get perjury, for example.
Right.
Okay, what's next? Well, Biden today made an announcement that he was ready to end the filibuster to codify Roe v. Wade. Now, there's allusions to Biden striking some sort of deal here in the last few hours as well with Mitch McConnell appointing a federal judge. So what I'm assuming is, I don't have the details yet because we literally read it before we started recording.
Yeah, it just come up.
Is that maybe this is a tit for tat thing to get rid of the filibuster. If that's the case, appointing one federal conservative judge, I mean, think about all the district courts that there are in the entire United States. I'll take that trade any day, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, if
even
we
though
can
I don't
protect
like
Roe
trading
and women's
but-
rights,
Yeah.
You know.
If that's what they're doing to get to that. But also, there's been many political deals go sideways, and people have went back on their word, and people have said one thing, done another.
Like Mitch McConnell?
Especially like a snake like Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, all those fucks.
Did you hear what that
all the
motherfucker
same.
was saying this morning, too?
Which one?
If
Ted
McConnell,
Oh.
he was saying he's going to resign if the Republicans don't win everything back. He said that he would resign. I was like, all right, baby, let's fucking do this.
When I
I doubt it, but I'm just saying that's what he was saying this morning.
He's going to be like Gigi Allen. He's going to be like Gigi Allen. He's going to keep saying he's going to do all this shit. And he's like, I'm going to show you. I'm going to stay.
And I'm going to throw shit on you just
That's what you
because I
want.
want
You
to.
want me to leave.
I'm going to cut my dick open, sling some blood on you,
Yeah.
poop in my hand, and just sling it all over the Senate.
The only person besides, like, I imagine all Republican men all called their wife mother, just like Mike Pence. And I imagine that the only one that doesn't do that is Lindsey Graham because you're gay as fuck, motherfucker. Like, everybody knows it. Just come
Don't hide
out.
it.
Yeah.
He's with that, what was that kid from
Marco
Florida?
Rubio?
Oh, well, him too.
We all know Marco Rubio was working the streets when he was a teenager.
So was that
there's
kid in a
something about
wheelchair.
Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, that's who I was talking about. What was
Madison Cawthorn.
Yeah, that's it. That guy.
Madison Cawthorn, who sounds like a fucking Civil War general that was reincarnated, but his whole
The
body
South will
didn't get
rise again.
his whole body didn't get reincarnated. The part where his legs got blown off by a cannonball have still stayed intact.
What a fucking sleazeball, that guy.
So let's talk about something that we can do. So here's really something very simple. Let's disobey the law. How do we do that in an ethical?
That's what I'm talking about, baby.
Well, I'm about to tell you how to do that. You guys heard of this thing called telemedicine? Everybody uses it nowadays. Telemedicine is an option for Plan B style birth control. So that's, kind of morning after, those types of things. But, you can actually, over 60% of abortions in this country already before the Roe v. Wade decision were being performed with pills.
Yeah.
And these are pills that doctors can prescribe you. Now, of course, depending on what state you're in, that might be an issue. Well, here's the thing about telemedicine. Whenever you get on a telecall, you might be on a call with a physician in a different state. So there's no jurisdiction over what medication is sent to you. In
Not
that
yet,
regard.
baby.
Some states are, yes, trying to put laws into practice now because they're catching on to this loophole. However, there's still a way around that. And we're going to give that resource to you today, eventually here. But there is a way to do a telemedicine appointment with doctors in Europe, the Netherlands specifically.
Oh, nice.
Who can send you birth control pills in the mail, and they do not give a shit if the U.S. or any of its states try and sue them because
they're in
care
Europe.
and they're
They
not
don't
gonna
give
do
a
anything.
fuck, dude.
What are you gonna do? And you said Norway's doing that?
Netherlands.
Netherlands.
That's
Yeah.
same difference.
Tip of the fucking top up there.
Yeah.
They actually care about people.
Right.
So some other stats we want to consider too, because of course, regardless of where you're at, because the next things that are coming are religious exemptions as well, regardless of what state you're in. So a stat to be very aware of, and now I'm just talking one denomination here, so let's talk about Catholic. There's a lot of Catholic hospitals. There's tons in Missouri specifically, tons in St. Louis specifically. Catholic hospitals in the entire United States, they make up for 1 in every 6 beds in hospitals. So I'm going to tell you that right now, they're going to, as a religious entity, because the Catholic Church doesn't support abortion,
Right.
going to start taking policies against performing abortions, regardless of what, or at least it's going to be attempted. It's going to be attempted, and try to use a religious exemption, even in states that it's lawful. So again, we need to know how can we disobey these laws? How can we disobey these practices? How can we disobey these policies? So I can't encourage folks enough to not depend on the legal system right now. Don't expect things to work out because they haven't. This government doesn't give a fuck about you, as many people have expressed here today on this call. And what's an interesting way, going about with these abortions, doing the pill, is that they can't tell whether or not you took a pill, because essentially the act is a miscarriage. So whenever you go into the hospital, you report that you're having a miscarriage, and they treat it as such. There's no way for them, because they're essentially just taking some hormones to enact the miscarriage procedure. So if you go to the hospital, say you're having a miscarriage, they have to treat you. They can't turn you away. There's no way that they can check and see if you took any pills. They might ask you, but you tell them no, so what?
Tell them it's none of their fucking business if they ask you.
Absolutely. It's medical privacy. So the call to action is, let's learn about pills. Let's support independent clinics. And I'm going to tell you why that's still important to do. And support abortion funds specifically. So independent clinics and abortion funds are 2 different things. I'm going to define those for you. So let's learn about pills. There's a couple different resources online. There's a thing called Plan C Pills. That is one of the providers that I'm talking about that will get you hooked up with telehealth medicine and that sort of stuff.
Plan C just means that you punch a kid whenever they come out of the womb.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually, they show you a diorama on how to do that.
Not Plan A, not Plan B, which is a pill. You just punch a kid for Plan C.
Yeah. And in no way is it that way.
It is not. It is not.
Brandon, whose social security number I'm going to give out for liable.
My name is Tom Tickle. I don't know if you noticed that on the.
Yeah. Tom Tickle. So, and then there's another website called I Need A, as in Apple. So, short for abortion. So, I Need A is another website that you can learn more about pills and what to do. I'm going to get into the clinic talk. So, supporting independent clinics. How do we do that? Well, first and foremost, let's do not support Planned Parenthood. And it's not because Planned Parenthood doesn't do other things other than abortion. It does. But Planned Parenthood is a part of this frontal attack because they get a lot of federal funds.
Right.
So Planned Parenthood in and of itself, unfortunately, is not going to be the best resource to invest in. So there are 2 different websites you can go to. It's called Keep Our Clinics, and then there's National Abortion Federation. You can go to both of those websites and find what independent clinics that you can support financially. And that is still yet that either R&D related to abortions or facilities are essentially funded in other states. And there's a partnership to where there's things like transportation and that sort of thing so that you can go get an abortion. This is not a part of my 3-plan phase here, but allegedly there are some, and this is a little bit of virtue signaling, quite frankly, but there are some employers out there that are advertising, Disney being one of the more prominent ones. There's a whole bevy of them. If you are an employee of a large corporation, we'll call it a legacy corporation, your Procter and Gamble's and that sort of thing. Go to human resources, go and see if they're supporting women's health, transportation, or providing stipends. St. Louis City, specifically Kansas City, are both, as city administrations, in discussions right now for passing policies to actually cover women transportation to go get women's health procedures done out of state. So that's another option to consider too. So people don't overlook your employer as a possibility. Maybe something's changed and they just haven't publicized it. The next thing is going to be funds. So how do we support with funds? Well, you need to support state organized and targeted funds specifically. So yes, there is a Missouri abortion fund. You think, why would I do that? Because we can't do abortions in Missouri. Well, the fund is actually for, if there were, which there isn't at the moment, past 8 weeks. However, they will cover transportation for said abortions. They will cover, let's say you got to stay in a hotel for travel purposes tonight. They'll cover that. They'll cover childcare for you while you go get an abortion, so you can have childcare. Somebody can sit with your kids or whatever the case is. So there's a lot of other, benefits that are being provided through these funds, through a state-specific led program. And it is in our interest to invest in those because each state is different. And if you do want to help out in your own state. So quite simply, you would go to the internet, look for a state organized or targeted fund for abortions for Missouri. There is a Missouri one specifically. So, and then in Brandon's case, there's one in Texas and so on and so forth. So this is the three phase. So let's learn about pills. Let's talk about supporting independent clinics, and let's talk about state-led funds specifically. So even if you can only give $5 or whatever the case is, try to do so. It'll help because you are directly affecting women who don't have the means to do so otherwise.
Just do your research, because there's a lot of emails I've been getting that they're taking advantage of this and taking advantage of people's money too. So do some research. All you got to do, this is the research you do. It's not on Facebook. It's like on Google, and then like not from a high media tier like entity. Do your research. Politico, Al Jazeera, they may be left leaning in some certain circumstances, but especially on this, you should probably pay attention to it. BBC, another good source. They've been covering this whole fucking thing.
Right.
All reputable.
So if, doing huge web searches and it just seems all, I can understand how somebody's coming at this with a defeatist attitude to begin with. They're discouraged. We've all voiced our discontent and how we're discouraged right now. But even then, there's other resources. So if it's easier for you to listen to a podcast, nice, easy, short podcast, New York Times, NPR, they both do a daily podcast that are relatively short, usually, no more than 25 minutes, as short as 10 minutes in some instances. And they often, whatever the hot political topic is, so there's a lot of abortion program heavy stuff in the last 2 weeks, that they have actually been providing websites, resources, been talking to advocates, been talking to, politicians, reporters, people that have covered the Supreme Court for 50 years, just addressing it from every avenue. So
ACLU as well.
Oh, absolutely. ACLU, and I believe that they have email contacts. So even if you think that you might have something for them to pursue in representation of you, definitely get a hold of them. And, of course, ACLU is anything civil liberties related. So it's not just abortions. If you feel that you're being a victim of a hate crime or sexist related or ageism or anything like that, ACLU is a great resource.
And highly unpoliticized for the most part. Up until recently, they started getting into a little bit of political shit that they need to just keep their toes out. Please just be a saint for us. Just be an organization that does have no fucking ties and has the funding.
And, I just kind of want to also talk. We privately, as I'll call us, the ATI Podcast Collective, have talked about what we would like to do in the future. So, and I'm just mentioning this now because hopefully we can get some feedback on what the actual interest of this is, but we've kind of have an idea to kind of do an old school compilation like back in the day, like the Right to Love or the Right to Love Right Arms or whatever that group was. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're
Right.
talking about.
Love on Our Arms or something. Yeah, the suicide prevention.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Like, so kind of that same ideology there.
It's kind of like
is-
U2, whenever they were doing like holding
They
hands
forced that
across
album
the
on
world.
everybody's album.
Yeah.
They forced that album, if you had iTunes, on everybody's
Well, I mean, you get a
phone.
free song,
Yeah.
man. You get a
Like
free
that.
song. You get a
Yeah,
free
sure.
song.
And I mean, Bono's voice is like an angel, so
He gives you a bono.
This is anybody that's watching on
Bono
video.
for bonos.
Anybody that's watching on video, this is a preview of hopefully what's to become
Clarence Thomas.
the cover. Clarence Thomas, if he wasn't aborted, because this guaranteed was how he looked whenever he came out. And that's the little baby
Absolutely.
Jesus up there. Hi.
So, kind of what our idea is we're going to be speaking to some local artists that we've had on the show here before, see what their interest is in contributing a track toward the compilation. There will be digital options at a lower cost. Hopefully, we're going to get some tape productions we talked about, so physical media, as well as a T-shirt design. So, we're all working on this together as the collective, and are going to be reaching out to some of the bands, and I know some of the bands listen to us. So this is kind of our idea, and I'll be speaking with some of those as soon as this weekend to see what we can get in motion. So as more things develop with that, we'll put it out there. But that's definitely the intent. If you're an artist that you happen to be listening to this and you think that this is the cause you want to support, hit us up, DM us on any of our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is all fine.
Gmail even.
Yeah, if you want to hit us on our Gmail, it's in the tag at the end of the show, but it's ATI Podcast Questions at gmail.com. I do check it daily, so hit us up there too. So we're welcome to, hearing for submissions and that sort of stuff. Anybody that wants to help, anybody that's feeling heavy on their heart, with the situation, we're definitely here. We got to do this together. This needs to be a collective mindset. And regardless of how much it is or isn't, all the funds and proceeds will be going to the Missouri Fund specifically for abortions. So that we can help provide and facilitate those resources for women that need them.
Trying to be a good ally,
And just be an ally in the cause. So,
Barrett, you mind if I say one last thing before we get off?
Go
here?
ahead. Yeah.
In a non-angry way, I'm going to tell you this. We heard about several different things that can help out women in this fight to disobey the law. Hey, full power to you. Here's another thing. Us dudes got to take a back seat. We got to support our women.
Yep.
In any way that we can. People that we're related to or people we don't even fucking know. We have to support these fucking people to be able to get through this so that we can fight the good fight. You got to take a back fucking seat, motherfucker. So all us 4 people talking about it, that's great. All said and done. But people like that in there, my wife, who is that in there, made her sound like an object. She's not.
Goddamn Texas people.
Rubbing up on you, boy.
No, people like that woman in there she's one of the strongest fucking people I know. Take up fucking arms in the sense that you need to be supporting things that are wrong. If you find a protest that's in a small town like Abilene, Texas, I don't know, give a fuck about it and go. On my son's birthday, I will be attending for at least 1 hour to a fucking protest because I don't want to show my kid that doing the right thing is a bad thing.
Right.
Go and do your fucking business. Support everybody that is a woman in your life and protect them because I guarantee she'd fucking protect me over like anything. I'm the biggest fucking pussy on the planet. That woman would fucking kill somebody in a second. Like you are not
the same way.
You're not the strongest. Take a back seat and support every woman in your life or outside of it. Period.
Yeah.
And to speak to the protest, I do know that there is some protest being organized for the St. Louis area coming out. July 10th, I think.
July 10th.
So,
July 10th.
yeah, I'm in that group on Facebook. So, like, as I get more information, I'll definitely share that with everybody too. So,
and in the Farmington area, they're actually doing one on the 4th of July. There's already an invite going around about it.
Oh, really?
I didn't know about that.
On the 4th of July in Farmington at
good.
the courthouse.
fucking
So,
A.
and that is the county seat. and we'll post more on that in the group.
And if Barrett will
Yeah.
allow it, I'll. I don't think any listeners are in Abilene, Texas, but I'll send him a couple flyers and we can post them on socials.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And like, if you guys have flyers for anything, and you guys want us to share information, just reach out to us. Through socials, DMs,
Absolutely.
email.
And this is starting to. I want to plug the ATI podcast community page. That's where Facebook kind of gates what you do and don't do on kind of your fan pages. So we're noticing that we weren't getting the same exposure that we are with the group. We're getting a lot more interactions with the group. Our fans are getting to see posts. It's more interactive. People that listen to us, artists that have been on the show before, can get on there and actually, promote their events that they have coming up, albums, releases, that sort of stuff. So even this sort of thing is an opportunity. So feel free to share in the group, ATI podcast community on Facebook specifically. Guys, I don't think we could have ended it any better, quite frankly. So I feel the need to just say support your women. Echo that once again, as Brandon said, and
Yeah, you said it the best, Brandon. You really did. That was pretty much the best way you can put it.
Well, there is some last words. Fuck you, Clarence Thomas, and all you goddamn justices
that
don't give a fuck about women. And I hope that someday you will. I'm gonna. I wish you were aborted. I wish you were aborted. You fucks.
Amen, brother.
Hey, this is Josh from ATI Podcast. For show updates and news about the podcast, follow us on social media. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ATI Podcast22, on Twitter at podcast_ATI, on Instagram at the ATI Podcast, on TikTok at ATI Podcast. DMs are always welcome. Have a question for the show? You can always email us at atipodcastquestions@gmail.com. Stay safe out there.
This is Barrett from the ATI Podcast. Each week, Josh and I discuss current events, pop culture, music, TV, movies, politics, sports. Nothing is out of bounds. You can also tune in to learn about rising artists, small businesses. Whether it's music, graphic design, filmmaking, or even a brick-and-mortar mom-and-pop shop, we will be spotlighting folks and their endeavors. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Anchor, or anywhere you enjoy your podcasts. Just search ATI Podcast. We would like to thank you for your continued support, and as always, please stay safe out there.